I was 2 inches away from perfection when everything went to hell. Damn it. The delicate silk tore under my pins, ruining what should have been the centerpiece of my fall collection. My design studio, normally my sanctuary, felt like a prison tonight. Outside, Bakersfield's autumn rain tapped against the windows like impatient fingers, a constant reminder that time was running out. The phone rang. 3rd time in an hour. Same caller. Elaine Cooper Designs. I answered, forcing brightness into my voice while eyeing the ruined fabric. Where's my preview, Elaine? Richard Thornton's voice slithered through the speaker. And my investors won't wait forever. Neither will I. My stomach twisted. Richard's backing meant everything for my small label's survival. And a collection's coming together beautifully, just perfecting the details. Find me something fresh, or we're done. I need a face that makes people stop scrolling. You have 2 weeks. The line went dead before I could respond. I hurled my coffee mug against the wall, watching the ceramic shatter as dramatically as my career was about to. The bitter smell of cold coffee filled the room, mingling with the scent of fabric dye and desperation. 3 failed collections. 1 last chance. I grabbed my fishing gear impulsively. The water had always cleared my head, ever since Dad first put a rod in my hands. Tonight I needed that clarity more than ever. The Bakersfield Fishing Club parking lot was nearly empty when I arrived, just as I preferred it. Rain had tapered to mist, collecting like tiny diamonds in my blonde hair. The lake stretched out before me, a black mirror reflecting nothing. Thor, you're holding that rod like it's a snake. I jumped at the voice. A woman stood nearby, her red hair gleaming under the dock lights like polished copper. Even in waders and a practical fishing vest, something about her was magnetic. High cheekbones, delicate collarbones visibly beneath her opened collar, eyes as piercingly blue as a mountain lake. Bad day, I admitted. Those are the best days for fishing. She extended her hand. And Chelsea Clark? Her palm was warm against mine, calloused in ways that suggested she worked with her hands. The touch lingered half a second too long. Elaine Cooper? Went to designer? Her eyebrow arched slightly. I've seen your work. Something in her tone made me wonder if that was a compliment. Before I could ask, she pointed to my setup. You're using the wrong fly for this time of night. Here. Chelsea rummaged through her case and handed me something that looked like a drowned insect. Our fingers brushed, an electric current between us that had nothing to do with the gathering storm. And trust me, she said. 2 hours later, I'd landed the biggest catch of my life, laughing harder than I had in months as Chelsea guided my hands on the line. Keep tension, she shouted, standing so close behind me I could feel her breath on my neck. Her hands covered mine, steady and sure. Don't let her run! When the rainbow trout finally emerged from the water, glistening like a living jewel, Chelsea's whoop of triumph matched my own. We stood there, soaked and grinning like idiots, her arm casually draped across my shoulders. Not bad for a fashion designer, she teased. Under the soft glow of the dock lights, I noticed the medication alert bracelet on her wrist. Chelsea caught my glance and subtly turned it away. Same time next week? She asked, changing the subject. Everyone needs a fishing partner. I nodded, surprised by how much I wanted that. As I watched her pack up her gear, something stirred in me, something I hadn't felt in years. It wasn't until I got home that I realized we'd spent 3 hours together, and I hadn't thought about work once. More remarkably, looking at her contact information in my phone, I realized I'd just found the face that could save my collection, if only I could convince her. Little did I know, as I fell asleep with her laugh still echoing in my ears, that I'd end up giving Chelsea Clark far more than a modeling contract. I'd give her part of myself, literally. She want me to what? Chelsea's eyebrows shot up as she reeled in another bass. We'd been meeting at the lake every week for nearly a month now, and I'd finally worked up the courage to ask. And model for my new collection. I kept my voice casual, though my heart hammered against my ribs. Just a few pieces. Your look is exactly what I need. The morning sun painted gold streaks across the water. Chelsea's red hair caught fire in the light, making her look like some ancient goddess of lakes and rivers, rather than a woman in mud-splattered waders. I'm not a model, she said, but I detected curiosity beneath her protest. So do you have the bone structure, the height, the presence? I wasn't lying. Since our first meeting, I'd been sketching designs with her in mind, flowing silhouettes that would complement her athletic frame, colors that would make those startling blue eyes even more intense. And I need someone real for this collection. Someone with character in their face. Chelsea's laugh sounded like wind through reeds. Character? Is that designer speak for old? You're hardly old. But you're not 18 either, thank goodness. She cast her line with practiced precision. Why me, really? The question hung between us. I thought about Richard's ultimatum, about my career teetering on the edge of collapse. But staring at Chelsea now, silhouetted against the morning light, those weren't the reasons that mattered anymore. Because I haven't been able to stop designing for you since we met. The honesty in my voice surprised us both. Chelsea's hands stilled on her reel, and something passed between us, a current stronger than the one moving beneath our feet at the edge of the dock. "And I'll think about it," she finally said. That was a week ago. Now Chelsea sat in my studio, perched nervously on a stool, while I draped fabric against her shoulders. The deep emerald silk made her pale skin glow and her hair look like flickering flame. "This is crazy," she murmured. "I don't know the first thing about modeling." "One, you don't need to. Just be yourself." I pinned the fabric at her shoulder, careful not to prick her. "That's what makes this collection different. It's designed for real women living real lives." Chelsea snorted. "Is that your sales pitch? Is it working?" Her smile answered before her words did. "Maybe." As I worked, I noticed Chelsea's breathing seemed labored at times. Twice she checked her phone for the time, glancing at it anxiously. "Teen hot date?" I teased, trying to ignore the strange twist in my stomach at the thought. "Doctor's appointment," she answered, too quickly. "Nothing serious." The lie hung in the air between us. I set down my pins. "You don't have to do this if you're not comfortable." "It's not that." Chelsea's fingers traced the outline of her medical alert bracelet. Signed, should have mentioned it sooner, but it never seemed like the right time. She took a deep breath. "And I have polycystic kidney disease. It's hereditary. My mother died from it when I was 12. The revelation hit me like a physical blow. Chelsea, I'm so sorry." "Don't be. I've had years to come to terms with it." Her smile was brave but thin. "But it's progressing faster than my doctors expected. I'm on a transplant list, but the wait is long. That's why I hesitated about the modeling job. I can't promise I'll be healthy enough to commit long term." The studio suddenly felt too small, too hot. I thought about Chelsea on our fishing trips, her vitality, her laugh, the way she came alive by the water. The unfairness of it twisted in my chest. "So, how long have you been waiting?" I managed to ask. "8 months. Could be another year or more." She shrugged, a practiced casualness. "My blood type makes finding a match complicated." "What type are you?" "An B negative. Not the rarest, but uncommon enough to make things difficult." My heart stopped. B negative, my blood type. "We should still do the shoot," I said, mind already racing ahead. "We'll work around your appointments, day by day." Chelsea's smile then, relieved, genuine, sealed my decision before I'd even consciously made it. That night, after Chelsea left, I made a phone call to my doctor. Then I sat at my desk for hours, researching living kidney donation, statistics, risks, recovery time. The screen blurred as dawn approached, but my resolve only strengthened. I never told a soul about filling out the donor testing paperwork the next day. Not my assistant, not my friends, and certainly not Chelsea. Something told me she would try to stop me if she knew. Besides, what were the odds I'd actually be a match? The universe rarely arranges coincidences that perfect. But 3 weeks later, when the hospital called with my test results, I learned that sometimes it does exactly that. I'd never been afraid of needles, but staring at the IV in my arm the morning of the surgery, I felt a flutter of panic. What the hell was I doing? Giving a kidney to someone I'd known for less than 3 months? "NM's Cooper. Are you ready?" The nurse's voice was gentle. "Then the anesthesiologist will be here shortly." I nodded, unable to speak. I'd told everyone I was taking a sabbatical in Europe to research textile techniques. My assistant thought I was in Milan. My parents believed I was in Paris. In reality, I'd be recovering in a private room at Bakersfield Memorial Hospital, hoping Chelsea never discovered I was her anonymous donor. "Any second thoughts?" Dr. Martin asked, checking my vitals one last time. "None." Despite my nerves, this was true. Will the recipient be okay?" He smiled, clearly used to donors asking about their anonymous matches. "And the recipient is prepping for surgery now. She's in excellent hands." Across town, Chelsea was being wheeled into an operating room, unaware that her fishing partner was about to give her a second chance at life. "Count backward from 10, the anesthesiologist instructed as the medication entered my system. 10, 9, 8. I dreamed of fishing lines crossing in deep water, of Chelsea's laugh carried on the wind, of a connection I couldn't explain but couldn't deny either. When I woke, the sharp pain in my side confirmed it was done. Through the haze of pain medication, I asked the first nurse I saw, "Did it work? Did the transplant take?" "Everything went perfectly," she assured me. "You've done something remarkable today." 2 weeks later, despite my incisions still healing, I slipped into a support group meeting at the community center. The flyer had caught my eye in the hospital waiting room. "It's life after transplant, for donors and recipients." I told myself I was only going to learn about recovery, not to look for Chelsea. That excuse evaporated the moment I walked in and saw her sitting in the circle. She looked pale but beautiful, her red hair pulled back in a loose ponytail. I froze in the doorway, nearly turning to leave, when she spotted me. "Elaine?" Her surprise was genuine. "What are you doing here?" My mind raced for explanations. "My cousin had a transplant. I'm trying to understand what she's going through." The lie tasted bitter. "You should have told me." Chelsea gestured to the empty chair beside her. "And just had my transplant 2 weeks ago. Kidney. Anonymous donor." My incision site throbbed as I carefully lowered myself into the chair. "That's amazing. How are you feeling?" "Like I've been hit by a truck, but a truck filled with hope." Her smile was radiant. "And doctors say the kidney started working immediately. Perfect match." Pride swelled in my chest. When she looked good, really good. The group leader, a transplant coordinator named Michael, started the session. Recipients shared their gratitude, their fears of rejection, their survivor's guilt. Donors, the few present, talked about their recovery challenges. I stayed silent, watching Chelsea from the corner of my eye. When she spoke about her anonymous donor, her voice cracked with emotion. "And I wish I could thank them, whoever they are," she said, "saying they've given me my life back. How do you repay something like that?" I stared at my hands, fighting tears. After the meeting, Chelsea suggested we go fishing that weekend. "Doctor says light activity is good for recovery. Nothing strenuous, but sitting in a boat should be fine." I agreed, knowing I should be resting too, but unable to resist. That Saturday, we sat side by side in a small rowboat as sunset painted the lake copper and gold. Chelsea looked alive in a way I'd never seen before, her skin glowing with renewed health. "I keep wondering about them," she said suddenly. My donor?" I focused on my fishing line. "Maybe they want to remain anonymous." "Wouldn't you want to know who saved your life?" Chelsea turned to me, her eyes reflecting the fading light. I had this crazy thought that maybe it was someone I know. Isn't that wild?" "Why would that be wild?" I kept my voice steady. "Because who gives up an organ for a virtual stranger?" She shook her head. "It has to be someone who didn't know me at all, or someone who loves me more than I realize." The moment hung between us, heavy with unspoken truths. Chelsea's face was inches from mine, her breath visible in the cooling evening air. For a heartbeat, I thought she might kiss me. For a heartbeat, I wanted her to. Instead, she turned back to the water. "Thank you for being here through all this, Elaine. Not many fashion designers would put up with a sick model. You're more than a model to me." The words escaped before I could stop them. Chelsea's hand found mine in the gathering darkness, our fingers intertwining naturally. We didn't speak again until it was time to row back to shore, but something had shifted between us. A current deeper than friendship, stronger than compassion. As I helped her out of the boat, careful of my own hidden incisions, I wondered how long I could keep my secret. And more terrifyingly, I wondered what would happen when she inevitably discovered that part of me was now living inside her. 6 weeks after the surgery, Chelsea stood in my studio, the centerpiece of my resurrection as a designer. The emerald silk gown hugged her body like water, revealing just enough of her collarbones and the elegant line of her back. The small audience of fashion journalists gasped audibly when she emerged from behind the screen. "Hold that pose," my photographer murmured, capturing frame after frame. I watched from behind my desk, still moving gingerly despite my healing incisions. The pain was worth it. Every time Chelsea's lab results came back positive, every time she mentioned feeling better than she had in years, I silently celebrated my decision. "Elaine, this collection is stunning," Marisa from Vogue whispered beside me. "And your model, where did you find her? She's captivating." "Fishing," I replied honestly, earning a confused laugh. When the last journalist left, Chelsea collapsed dramatically onto my chaise lounge. "How do real models do this all day? My face hurts from smiling." "And you were perfect." I joined her on the chaise, careful to hide my wince as I sat. "Richard called during the shoot. He wants the entire collection." Chelsea's eyes widened. "That's amazing. We should celebrate." "Dinner tonight?" I suggested, trying to sound casual. "Can't. Doctor's appointment." She checked her watch. "Actually, I should get going." A flicker of worry crossed my face before I could hide it. "Honest routine," Chelsea assured me, touching my hand. "With transplant patients, they monitor everything obsessively for the first few months." I nodded, fighting the urge to tell her I knew, because I'd read every piece of literature on post-transplant care. "Text me after? Let me know everything's okay?" Her smile softened. "You worry too much." After she left, I swallowed my pain medication and tried to focus on work. My phone chimed 3 hours later. "Chelsea, all clear. Doctor says kidney function perfect. Celebrating with ice cream. Want some?" Relief flooded through me. I was typing a response when a second message appeared. "Chelsea, the weirdest thing happened. Dr. Reynolds mentioned my donor is healing well too, said they're monitoring both sides of the transplant. How would he know that unless my donor is also his patient?" My blood ran cold. I'd been careful to use different doctors at the same hospital, but clearly someone had slipped up. I didn't respond immediately, unsure what to say. "Chelsea, Elaine? You there?" "Me, that's great news. Sorry, got caught up with Richard. Rain check on ice cream?" That night, I barely slept, worried about how much longer I could keep my secret. The next morning, Chelsea arrived at the studio looking troubled. She paced my office while I pretended to sketch. "And I've been thinking about what Dr. Reynolds said," she began. "What are the odds my donor is from Bakersfield? From the same hospital where you had your emergency appendectomy right around when I had my transplant?" I kept my eyes on my sketchbook. "Probably just coincidence. And then there's this." She placed a prescription bottle on my desk. "Found this in your bathroom when I used it last week. Tacrolimus. It's an anti-rejection drug, Elaine, for transplant patients." My heart pounded. "He can explain." "Were you going to tell me? Ever?" Her voice cracked. "Oh, I've been carrying around this gratitude for some anonymous saint, and it's been you all along? And I wanted to tell you." I finally met her eyes. "But then I worried you might feel obligated to me somehow." "Obligated?" Chelsea's laugh was tearful. "Oh, you gave me a kidney. Of course I feel obligated." "That's exactly what I didn't want." I stood, moving toward her. It was my choice, no strings attached. "We barely knew each other then," she whispered. "Why would you do that for me?" The question hung between us. How could I explain that from the moment we met by the lake, I'd felt connected to her in ways I couldn't rationalize? "And I had this feeling," I said finally, "that you weren't finished yet, that you had more life to live, and I could help." Chelsea stepped closer, her eyes searching my face. "That's not a normal reaction to someone you just met." "Nothing about this has been normal." My voice was barely audible. Before I could say more, she closed the distance between us. Her hands found my face, and then her lips were on mine. The kiss was gentle at first, questioning, then deepened with a certainty that made my knees weak. Her body pressed against mine, careful of my healing side. When we finally broke apart, Chelsea's eyes were bright with tears. "And I've wanted to do that since our first fishing trip." Even before I gave you a vital organ, I teased, breathless. That was just a bonus. She smiled against my lips before kissing me again. That night, we took the boat out to the center of the lake. Under a canopy of stars, Chelsea's fingers traced the still pink scar on my side while I told her everything. How I'd made the decision, the tests, the terror and certainty I'd felt going into surgery. You could have died, she whispered against my neck. So could you. I ran my fingers through her hair. Seemed like a fair trade. As moonlight silvered the water around us, Chelsea pressed me gently back against the cushions in the boat. Her kisses became more insistent, her hands exploring with increasing boldness. When she slid her body over mine, careful of our matching scars, something electric passed between us, a recognition that we were now permanently connected, one life flowing into another. Is this okay? She whispered, her hands finding the hem of my shirt. More than okay, I breathed, pulling her closer. That night on the lake, we mapped each other's bodies with wonder and care, learning the language of each other's pleasure beneath the watchful stars. None of my designs had ever felt as perfect as the way Chelsea's body fit against mine, a completion I hadn't known I was seeking until I found it. The morning after our night on the lake, I woke to sunlight streaming through my bedroom windows and Chelsea's red hair spread across my pillow. For a moment, I just watched her sleep, amazed at how quickly everything had changed between us. 6 months ago, I was a designer on the verge of failure. Now my collection was generating buzz, and I'd somehow fallen for the woman carrying my kidney inside her. My phone buzzed with a text from Richard. Press loves the preview shots. Everyone's asking about your discovery. We need her full portfolio ASAP. I slipped out of bed quietly, not wanting to wake Chelsea. In my studio, I pulled up the photos from yesterday's shoot, still marveling at how naturally she took to modeling. As I scrolled through the images, an odd sensation of déjà vu struck me. I'd seen Chelsea somewhere before our fishing club meeting. But where? Curious, I searched her name online, scrolling through sparse social media profiles, until I found an industry article from 3 years ago. Quiche rising designer Elaine Cooper dismisses newcomers at Fashion Week after party. My stomach dropped as I clicked the link. There was a photo of me, champagne in hand, looking dismissively at a woman trying to show me her portfolio. A woman with familiar red hair. Chelsea Clark, aspiring designer, was among those rebuffed by Cooper, who reportedly called Clark's designs derivative and amateurish before walking away. The memory came flooding back. A crowded party, too much champagne, my ego inflated by my first successful collection. I remembered being annoyed by yet another hopeful designer seeking validation. I'd been cruel without a second thought. Find anything interesting? Chelsea's voice behind me made me jump. She stood in the doorway wearing my robe, her expression unreadable as she looked at the screen. Chelsea, I wondered if you'd remember eventually. She came into the room slowly. I recognized you immediately at the fishing club. Confusion replaced my guilt. You knew who I was all along? Why didn't you say something? What was I supposed to say? Hey, remember when you crushed my dreams 3 years ago? Want to share fishing tips? She crossed her arms. Besides, it was satisfying watching you not recognize me. Did you plan this? Getting close to me for some kind of revenge? The moment the words left my mouth, I regretted them. Chelsea's face hardened. Believe it or not, Elaine, not everything is about you. I joined that fishing club because water calms me. Meeting you there was coincidence. She turned away, though I did enjoy watching you squirm when I critiqued your casting technique. The irony wasn't lost on me. So when I asked you to model, I almost said no out of spite, she admitted. But I needed the money for medical bills. We stood in silence, the weight of this revelation pressing between us. Wait, you must have hated me, I finally said. And I did, for a long time. Chelsea's voice softened slightly. But hate's exhausting, and you were just one in a long line of industry people who shut me down. I thought about the kidney inside her, my kidney, sustaining her life even after I'd casually dismissed her dreams. The cosmic joke of it all was almost too perfect. I'd literally given a piece of myself to someone I'd once deemed worthless. And now? I asked, barely audible. How do you feel now? Chelsea looked at me for a long moment, confused. You crushed my confidence with a single sentence, then saved my life with a single decision. How am I supposed to reconcile those two versions of you? I don't know. My voice cracked. I'm still trying to reconcile them myself. She moved toward the door. I need some space to think. Chelsea, please. Just give me time, Elaine. After she left, I sat staring at the article until the words blurred together. How many other aspiring designers had I casually dismissed? How many dreams had I stepped on while climbing my own ladder? 3 days passed without word from Chelsea. I threw myself into work, finalizing the collection even as my heart felt fractured. On the 4th morning, my doorbell rang. Chelsea stood there in fishing waders, holding 2 rods. Come with me. We drove in silence to the lake. Dark clouds threatened rain as we took the boat out to the center. Neither of us cast our lines. The rods lay forgotten as we faced each other. And I've been thinking, Chelsea finally said as thunder rumbled in the distance. And about forgiveness. About how people change. It was awful to you, I admitted. Say don't deserve your forgiveness. Probably not. A small smile touched her lips. But you have it anyway. Just like I didn't do anything to deserve your kidney. Fat raindrops began to hit the lake surface around us. We should head back, I said, reaching for the oars. Chelsea caught my wrist. No. I need to say this first. The rain intensified, plastering her hair to her face. There was something wild and beautiful about her in that moment, something untamed that called to me. I'm falling in love with you, she said, voice barely audible over the growing storm. And it terrifies me. Because of our history? Bent because I can't tell where gratitude ends and love begins. Her hands trembled as she touched my face. Is this real, Elaine, or am I just attached to you because you saved my life? The question hit me like a physical blow. I'd worried about her feeling obligated, but not about the confusion between gratitude and genuine feeling. And I don't know, I answered honestly. But I know what I feel is real. The skies opened then, rain pouring down in sheets. We scrambled to row back to shore, laughing despite the seriousness of the moment as we became drenched. By the time we reached the small fishing cabin I sometimes rented, we were soaked to the bone. Inside the primitive shelter, I built a fire while Chelsea found towels. The single room glowed orange with firelight as we shed our wet clothes. We're a mess, I said, watching water drip from her hair onto bare shoulders. Well, we certainly are. Her eyes never left mine as she stepped closer. When her lips found mine, the kiss held none of the gentleness of our first night. This was raw, desperate, hands grasping, breaths mingling, bodies pressing together with urgent need. We tumbled onto the cabin's narrow bed, all previous caution forgotten. I don't care why I want you, Chelsea whispered against my skin. I just know that I do. As the storm raged outside, we created our own tempest within the cabin walls, learning each other's bodies with increasing confidence. Every touch, every taste was an affirmation that whatever was happening between us, complicated and messy as it might be, was real. Mom, Dad, this is Chelsea. My voice only trembled slightly as I made the introduction. 3 months into our relationship, I'd finally worked up the courage to invite Chelsea to Sunday dinner at my parents' suburban Bakersfield home. My father extended his hand warmly. My mother's smile froze when she saw Chelsea's fingers intertwined with mine. Chelsea is my... I hesitated, feeling 16 again instead of 34. Partner, Chelsea finished smoothly, squeezing my hand. It's lovely to meet you both. Elaine speaks of you often. The silence that followed lasted 2 heartbeats too long. Well, my father finally said, Chini, friend of Elaine's, is welcome here. Friend. The word hung in the air like stale smoke. Dinner was an exercise in polite evasion. My mother asked about Chelsea's family, falling silent when Chelsea mentioned her traditional Catholic upbringing. And what do your parents think of your lifestyle? Mom asked, setting down her wine glass with deliberate care. When they don't know yet, Chelsea admitted. But soon. My sister's wedding is next month. Later, while Chelsea helped my father with dishes, my mother cornered me in the hallway. Elaine, what are you thinking? Your career is finally taking off again. This kind of publicity, it's none of your business. I cut her off quietly. And she makes me happy, Mom. and just want what's best for you. Chelsea is what's best for me. The drive home was tense until Chelsea broke the silence with a soft laugh. Well, that was slightly less terrible than I expected. I'm sorry about my mother. Don't be. I've got my own version waiting in the wings. She rubbed her temple. And my sister's wedding is going to be interesting. I reached across the console to take her hand. We'll face it together. 2 weeks later, Richard summoned me to his office to discuss the upcoming formal launch of my collection. The prototype pieces had generated enough buzz that major retailers were expressing interest. "NT preview shots with your redhead are gold," Richard said, spreading photos across his desk. "We're getting calls from everyone wanting to know who she is." Pride swelled in my chest. "She's amazing, isn't she?" "She is," Richard agreed. "Which is why I've booked her for an exclusive 6-page spread in Vogue." "That's incredible. And there's just one issue." He slid a gossip blog printout across his desk. "Tis hit the internet this morning." My stomach dropped. There we were, Chelsea and I kissing outside a restaurant last weekend. The headline screamed, "AIM designer Elaine Cooper's shocking affair with her model." "Hi, don't see the problem," I said carefully. "It's 2023, Richard. And the problem is our primary investors for this collection are Bartholomew Brands, conservative family company with traditional values." He leaned forward. "But they're threatening to pull out." "Because I'm dating a woman?" "And because you're dating your model. It looks unprofessional. They're worried about sexual harassment implications." I laughed incredulously. "That's ridiculous. Chelsea and I met before she ever modeled for me. And they don't care about the timeline." Richard's voice softened slightly. "Oh look, I'm not judging your personal life, but if you want this collection to succeed, you need to be discreet until after the launch. 3 months tops." "You're asking me to hide my relationship?" "And I'm asking you to be strategic." He checked his watch. "Think about it. This collection could resurrect your career or bury it for good." That evening, I paced my apartment waiting for Chelsea. When she finally arrived, her face told me she'd already heard. "Apparently, I'm sleeping my way to the top," she said, dropping her bag. "Mummy agent called to warn me about industry perception." I pulled her into my arms. "And Richard wants us to cool it publicly until after the launch. Own your career, my career. It's always going to be complicated, isn't it?" She sighed against my neck. "Oh, maybe we should give them what they want. Play it straight for the cameras." "Is that what you want?" Chelsea pulled back to look at me. "What I want is you. But I also want us both to succeed. If hiding for a few months helps that happen?" The compromise felt like acid in my mouth. Yet I nodded, thinking of everything we'd both worked for. 2 days later, Chelsea collapsed during a photo shoot. I was in a meeting with buyers when my assistant burst in. "Chelsea's in the hospital. Something about her kidney." The world tilted sideways. I vaguely remember apologizing to the startled executives before racing out. At the hospital, Dr. Reynolds met me in the hallway. "Early signs of rejection," he explained. "And we've started anti-rejection protocols. The next 48 hours are critical." "This is my fault," I whispered. "The stress of hiding our relationship." "This has nothing to do with stress," Dr. Reynolds said firmly. "Organ rejection can happen to anyone, anytime. Chelsea's body is strong, and we caught it early." Still, guilt crushed me as I sat beside her bed, watching medication drip into her veins. When she finally opened her eyes, her first words were, "Don't look so scared. I'm tougher than I look." Sue terrified me. My voice cracked. "And I thought I was going to lose you." "Not getting rid of me that easily." Her attempt at a smile faltered. "Though your kidney might be having second thoughts." I pressed my lips to her forehead. "We'll get through this." For 3 days, I never left her side, sleeping in the uncomfortable hospital chair, ignoring Richard's increasingly frantic calls about missed appointments. On the 4th morning, Chelsea's lab started improving. "And treatment's working," Dr. Reynolds announced. "We're not out of the woods, but things are moving in the right direction." When we were alone again, Chelsea turned to me with determined eyes. I've been thinking." "Dangerous?" I teased, relief making me giddy. I'm done hiding. She squeezed my hand. Life's too short and too precious. If those investors can't handle us loving each other, they can take their money elsewhere. But your career. Tons will happen or won't based on my talent, not who I'm dating. Chelsea's face was pale but resolute. When I get out of here, I want us to walk into your fashion show together, holding hands. My heart swelled. Richard will have a stroke. He'll survive. Her smile was weak but genuine. The question is, are you ready to risk everything for this, for us? Looking at her, fragile yet fierce in her hospital gown, I realized the answer had never been clearer. There's no risk, I said softly. Because nothing matters more than you. When I kissed her, it felt like a promise, a declaration. Whatever came next, we would face it together, in the open. No more hiding, no more shame. Let the fashion world talk. Let Richard's investors walk. Some things were worth more than success. And you're going where? Richard stared at me across his massive desk, face flushed with anger. Fashion week is in 6 days, Elaine. 6 days. I know, I said, remaining calm despite the tension coiling in my stomach. And Chelsea's latest lab results aren't good. We need more intensive treatment at UCSF Medical Center. Can't she go alone? Or with family? Richard's voice had risen an octave. This is the most important week of your career resurrection. I stood, smoothing down my skirt. She is my family now, Richard, and no amount of success is worth losing her. And you're making a mistake. He jabbed a finger at the sales projections on his desk. Buyers are lined up. Press is confirmed. Your absence will tank everything we've built. Then it tanks. I headed for the door. I'll be back the morning of the show, but I'm spending the days before with Chelsea in San Francisco. My decision is final. His parting words followed me down the hall. If you're not here for the preview day, don't bother coming back at all. Chelsea was waiting in the car outside, her face paler than usual but determined. How did he take it? Not about as well as we expected. I slid into the driver's seat. It doesn't matter. You're what matters. The 5-hour drive to San Francisco gave us time to talk about everything and nothing. Her childhood fishing with her father before he left, my first failed attempts at sewing, our shared dreams of someday having a house by water. We carefully avoided discussing what we both feared, that her body was slowly rejecting my kidney despite increased medication. Dr. Patel at UCSF was direct but kind. When some rejection indicators are concerning but not catastrophic yet. We'll start plasmapheresis today, followed by stronger immunosuppressants. What are her chances? I asked, gripping Chelsea's hand. 10 good, if we act aggressively. Dr. Patel looked between us. But I want to be clear, even if this kidney fails, it's not the end. We'd put Chelsea back on the transplant list. No, Chelsea interrupted. So I can't go through that again. And let's focus on saving this one first, Dr. Patel said gently. The next 4 days blurred together. Hospital rooms, needles, machines filtering Chelsea's blood, medications that made her sick. I slept in a chair beside her bed, worked on last-minute collection adjustments on my laptop, and fielded increasingly frantic calls from my assistant about Richard's ultimatum. On the 5th day, Chelsea woke to find me sketching her sleeping form. Preep, she teased weakly. I smiled. Oh, just documenting beauty. Her eyes fell on my phone, lighting up with another call from my office. Oh, you should go back. The preview day is tomorrow. I'm not leaving you. Elaine. She reached for my hand. In's collection is everything you've worked for. I'll still be here when you get back. And collection means nothing without you to share it with. I squeezed her fingers. Besides, my assistant can handle the preview. I'll fly back for the main show the day after. Chelsea's eyes filled with tears. You'd really risk everything for me? In a heartbeat. I kissed her palm. Now stop being dramatic and focus on getting better. That night, Dr. Patel brought cautiously optimistic news. My treatment's working. Her rejection markers are stabilizing. Relief made me dizzy. So she'll be okay? And let's say I'm cautiously optimistic. He smiled. Another day of treatment, and she might be stable enough for discharge, though she'd need to stay nearby for monitoring. Later, as Chelsea slept, my phone lit up with a text from my assistant. Richard canceled your segment in the show. Press asking questions. What should I tell them? I stared at the message, a strange calm settling over me. 3 years ago, this would have devastated me. Now, watching Chelsea's chest rise and fall in sleep, the panic wouldn't come. Some things were simply more important. I texted back, "Tell them the truth. I chose love over fashion." The next morning, Chelsea was sitting up in bed, color returned to her cheeks when my assistant called. "Elaine, you need to turn on Fashion Channel now." I fumbled for the hospital room remote, finding the live stream of the Fashion Week preview. There was Richard, standing before the assembled press. Unfortunately, Elaine Cooper will not be presenting her collection at our scheduled time tomorrow. Chelsea squeezed my hand. "I'm so sorry." "Shh," I said, watching Richard's face. "The reason for Elaine's absence," Richard continued, "is that she is currently at UCSF Medical Center with her partner, who is undergoing treatment for transplant complications. A transplant, I've recently learned, that Elaine herself donated." My jaw dropped as Richard continued. "While initially concerned about her absence, I've come to recognize that Elaine Cooper has demonstrated the same rare quality in her personal life that makes her designs exceptional, an unflinching commitment to authenticity. Her collection will now close our show tomorrow night instead of opening it, giving her time to be with her partner today." The camera panned to reveal my collection displayed behind him, with a large photo of Chelsea and me prominently featured. "Did you know about this?" I asked Chelsea, stunned. She shook her head, equally shocked, and used the word partner on national television. My phone rang immediately. It was Richard. "Before you say anything," he began, "the press is eating this up. Designer donates organ to save model girlfriend is a headline gold. The human interest angle has buyers even more interested." "That's surprisingly decent of you," I managed. "I'm not decent. I'm practical. This story sells better than any collection could alone." His voice softened slightly. "And also, my sister had a transplant last year. I should have been more understanding." After we hung up, Chelsea's eyes were wide. "Does this mean—" "It means," I said, climbing carefully onto the hospital bed beside her, "and it's we don't have to choose between careers and love after all." "And how does that make you feel?" she asked, settling against my shoulder. I thought about it as I stroked her hair. "Like I still would have chosen you, even if it had gone the other way." Dr. Patel's knock interrupted us. "When good news. If tonight's labs look good, we can discharge you tomorrow morning, in time for someone to make it back for a fashion show, perhaps?" Chelsea looked at me questioningly. "What do you think?" I asked her. "Might feel up to watching me charm the fashion world from the front row?" Her smile was answer enough. 1 year changes everything. Last spring, I was a desperate designer with failing collections and an empty bed. Now I stood at the edge of Lake Ming watching Chelsea bait her hook with practiced precision, her red hair caught in the early morning light. "Stop staring and focus on your line," she teased without looking up. "She'll scare away all the fish." "Ain like my view just fine," I replied, setting down my rod to wrap my arms around her from behind. A year since her transplant crisis, Chelsea had fully recovered. My kidney functioned perfectly inside her now, her body finally accepting it as her own. Sometimes at night, I'd place my hand over the scar on her side, marveling at how something once mine now gave her life. "We're supposed to be practicing," Chelsea reminded me, though she leaned back into my embrace. "The tournament's tomorrow." The Bakersfield annual fishing tournament wasn't exactly a glamorous event, but it had become important to us, a return to where our story began. My phone buzzed with a text from Richard, and Japanese buyers loved the fall sketches. "Ready to sign when you're back?" Life had found a surprising balance. After the Fashion Week drama, where Chelsea had surprised everyone by walking the runway despite her recent hospital stay, we'd become fashion's favorite power couple. I designed, Chelsea modeled occasionally, and we both fished whenever possible. "And sight ready to crush the competition tomorrow?" I asked, pressing a kiss to her neck. "Been born ready." Chelsea turned in my arms. "Though I'm still not sure why you entered us. You're terrible at fishing. And I have the best teacher." I touched her cheek, amazed still by how much I loved this woman. And besides, it seemed fitting, coming full circle. That night, we grilled our practice catch on the deck of the small lakeside cabin we'd bought 3 months ago. The property wasn't fancy, just a weathered 2-bedroom with peeling paint and squeaky floors, but the moment we'd seen it, we'd known it was ours. So remember when you nearly fell in trying to catch that bass? Chelsea laughed, passing me a beer. Sent I was distracted by this hot redhead showing off her casting skills. And shameless flirting got you nowhere. So I don't know, I grinned. I seem to remember it working out pretty well eventually. Later, as we lay in bed listening to crickets through the open window, Chelsea traced the scar on my side. Hard to believe it's been a year. Best year of my life, I said honestly. Even with all the hospital scares, the medication adjustments, Richard's drama. Even with all that, I pulled her closer. Though I could do without another medical crisis. She kissed me softly. And my labs have been perfect for 6 straight months. I'm officially boring now. And you could never be boring. My fingers tangled in her hair. And especially not tomorrow when you're accepting your tournament trophy? Pretty confident in my skills, aren't you? I've seen what those hands can do, I teased, kissing her palm. Morning came with perfect fishing weather. Overcast, cool, with just enough breeze to ripple the lake's surface. The tournament brought out 50 teams, mostly gruff men who eyed us with amusement as we set up our gear. $5 says the ladies don't catch squat. I overheard someone mutter. Chelsea merely smiled, focused on selecting her lures. 6 hours later, we stood on the winner's platform, Chelsea proudly holding up our record-breaking catch while cameras flashed. The local news reporter thrust a microphone at us. "What's your secret?" she asked. Chelsea glanced at me, eyes sparkling. Finding the right partner. After the ceremony, as the crowd dispersed, I led Chelsea back to our special spot on the lake's eastern shore. The setting sun painted everything gold and pink. "And I have something for you," I said, suddenly nervous. "Another trophy?" she teased. I reached into my pocket, fingers closing around the small box I'd carried for weeks. Something more permanent. When I dropped to one knee on the dock where we'd first fished together, Chelsea's hands flew to her mouth. "Elaine." "And I designed it myself," I said, opening the box to reveal a platinum ring. Instead of a traditional diamond, it featured a delicate fishhook motif wrapping around a small blue stone the color of her eyes. "Before I met you, I thought success meant magazine covers and Fashion Week slots." My voice trembled slightly. "Now I know it's waking up beside you, watching you cast your line at sunrise, building a life together." Tears spilled down Chelsea's cheeks. "Are you sure? With all my health issues—" "And already given you a kidney," I interrupted with a smile. "And I think I'm committed." She laughed through her tears. "It's one way to lock someone down." "Is that a yes?" "Yes." Chelsea pulled me up to kiss me thoroughly. 1,000 times yes. As I slipped the ring onto her finger, a fish jumped nearby, creating ripples that expanded outward across the water, like one small action affecting everything it touches. "Ting T I have something for you too," Chelsea said when we finally broke apart. She reached into her vest pocket, pulling out a small box of her own. Inside was a simple gold band with a tiny emerald. "Great minds think alike," she whispered. "And I was going to propose next week on our cabin anniversary." We stood on the dock where everything began, exchanging rings as the sun sank beneath the horizon. No witnesses except the fish below and birds overhead, perfect for us. "To think," Chelsea said softly as we walked back to the cabin hand in hand. "And so all this started because you couldn't cast worth a damn—" "Best failure of my life," I replied, squeezing her fingers. That night, as Chelsea slept beside me, her red hair spread across our shared pillow, I thought about all the twists our story had taken, how cruelty had given way to kindness, how illness had led to healing, how 2 women who met by chance had chosen each other deliberately, repeatedly through every challenge. Some might call it fate. I called it the best catch I'd ever made,